Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of A Coffee with Chris, the social media show that helps you create impact. As always, brought to you in association with our charity partners, Big C, who help local people affected by cancer, and Game Plan Coffee, Paddy and Scott's special coffee partnership with the High Performance Foundation. Every single bag of this beautiful bean you buy helps them support the work of the High Performance Foundation, funding programs to help young people across the UK develop the mindset and tools to thrive in life, not just survive it. So if you're like me, I've just realized I've not even got my coffee because I've already drunk it. That speaks volumes. If you're obsessed with coffee like me, grab a bag and give young people a fair shot at their own high performance. Of course, this podcast is also sponsored by Oliver Hill from Hill Coaching Company, Gemma Crane from Minds HR, and Callum Howard from Limitless Film and Media. He's back for round two. I'm delighted today to be joined by founder of Halekorero, James Hale. Halekorero helps founders and leadership teams uncover, define, and communicate the story behind their business. I was listening to a podcast recently, James, and it reawakened me to just how impactful your work is. And so I wanted to kick off this conversation by asking you, why is it that businesses still struggle with storytelling for their business? Why do they struggle with it?
I think for most, it's that I think most people kind of accidentally start businesses. Like, I don't think not everyone sets out with the intention to start a business. They're good at something and they go, oh, I can make a business out of that. And then as it rolls on, all of a sudden you're there 10 years later with like 20 staff. And you're like, how has this become what I didn't set out to do this. It's just now what I've got. And I guess what I see most of the time is, often in sort of small, medium-sized businesses, the founder is an expert at what they do. They're not an expert at marketing. So they're really good at what they do. They're just rubbish at telling anyone. So they can be out there doing something incredible. They have a brilliant business. They just never bothered to tell anyone. So I think that's fundamentally where the gap sits in most of the businesses that I help and support is they're very good at their craft. And marketing has never been something they've either had to worry about, they've had interest in, until it becomes the point in which they do need it. And at that point, they get a bit stuck, they don't know what to say. And it's then really when the business story needs to take over and kind of make the difference.
Let's dangle the carrot a little bit, James, because in episode 2, I don't think we did enough of that. Episode 1, I don't think we did enough of that, sorry. What changes for a business when they finally get clarity on their story? What's the impact of having that story succinct, well-defined, and in place?
For me, which is obviously a slightly biased point of view, but I feel like the businesses that have a really clear identity of who they are as a business, like why they exist, who they exist to serve, and what difference they're going to make. When you know the answers to those questions and you're so sure on what it is, your ability to communicate it both externally and internally is so much easier. So externally, if you're thinking about doing marketing, you know what you're good at and you know who you're good for. So all of a sudden, you only start talking to the people that really matter and you're saying to them something of interest to them. So your chances of success are much better. And equally internally, it kind of allows you to make sure that the staff you've got are aligned to the same vision. And if you're ever looking to recruit or grow the business, you're bringing on people that really share that same sense of identity of what the business is. And I think for me, it's always just been, for me, the story of a business is the very heart of what it is. It's why it exists in the first place. It's what drives it today. And if you can get a grip of that, I think it allows everything that happens around it to revolve around the core idea, identity of that business. And if you are able to do that, I think you can create clarity, you can create consistency. And we both know that if you have those two things, your marketing and your social is way more likely to be successful.
And of course, this is a social media marketing show, James, but actually, I love what you've brought up there about culture and how you get team buy-in and you feel a part of something and it's all so super clear. One of the things that blew my mind, James, and by the way, cards on the table for people tuning in again, James has done his wonderful workshop with me and my business, hence the reason why we've come up with purposeful social media that creates impact. And on that note, James, I wanted to ask you, what is it about these 16 magic words or less? You go through this exercise from all of these words, and then it's like, right, this is your business in 16. What is it about that number?
I don't know. I think for me, there's some magic in it. 16 words is like an average sentence length. And I think there's something in, for me, forcing business owners and leadership teams to really just condense everything. It's like, I know everything in this business is important to you because you live it, you breathe it. But from a marketing and a communication point of view, not every detail matters to the person you're trying to sell to. And actually for them, it's really, what's the headline? What's the title? You know, it's like a book. The blurb sells it. You don't read the whole book. You're kind of into the blurb. This is ability to condense it down in its simplest way. I think is the most powerful way that you can explain a business, because you're forced to go, actually, what is the most important thing I have to say? And if you are able to get a grip of that, your ability to then build everything around that idea is so much better. The amount of times I meet businesses, owners, founders, and their story is sort of this rambling, well, I started in 1994. And it's like, okay, you've lost me already. If you immediately punch me in the face with a massive, headline, I'm interested. Tell me more now. So I think it's that ability to really just strip away and go, here's the most important thing people need to know about my business. And here's what I want to be known for.
Well, I love all of that, James. That's why we've connected so well. I think there's so much crossover between what you do and social in terms of this kind of grabbing attention. We are in this attention economy now more than ever before, especially with shorter mindsets when it comes to social. You're able to get distracted all the time. You're seeing there's so much of everything that's going on all the time. You're getting all of this information. It's information overload. And one of the things that I'm doing with our clients straight away is we're stripping it down. I'm like, guys, there's way too much detail. You don't need War and Peace. You don't need 15 paragraphs on a LinkedIn post. Let's headline it. Let's give people the bullet points. Let's give them the value and get on with it. We don't need to share every detail. I love the wisdom around that, James. What would you say, I guess, linked to that, to founders that believe that their messaging is muddled, and critically, where should they start to fix that problem?
Oddly enough, I sort of say don't start by doing marketing, because you need to just take stock. If you are confused and you're not 100% sure what your marketing's doing, or if you should be doing marketing, or what difference it's making, for me, the best step is to sit there and go, why did I start this business in the first place? Like, who was I trying to help, and what difference was I trying to make? Because most of the time, that's still true today. The reason you started 20 years ago is still the reason you exist and you want to improve today. And sometimes you lose sight of that along the journey, because you get busy, you chase opportunities, staff come and go, you name it. And along the way, it gets confused. And actually just sitting down, that's the reason I've designed my workshops, to be honest, is the opportunity for us to all sit down together for a day and just reconnect with what that business is. Like, for me, I'm never imparting my ideas on the business. I'm just helping you re-unlock what they were in the first place and go, okay, based on everything you've told me, here's what I think is magical about your business. Go run with that. So I think for anyone who's thinking, what would my first step be? I would definitely delve straight into the idea of, what is this business meant to be? Who do I want it to be for? And I think a lot of the answers come from knowing the answer to those two questions, because in theory, everything you shape for your business is around those. And where I probably see a lot of people go wrong is that they jump straight to activity. So especially now with AI, for instance, you jump straight onto a ChatGPT, and all you're doing is muddying the waters further, because you're just accelerating the confusion. You're just creating more of it. And it's not until you're crystal clear on who you are, what your business is meant to be, that then if you go and use an amazing tool like AI, you're using it in the best way for your business. So I think my instant thing would be, sit down, have a coffee, whether that's a coffee with Chris or a coffee with a mate. Just sit down and go, what is this business meant to be? And who is this business meant to help? And I think a lot of the starting answers sit within those two questions.
I think there's so much sense in that, James. You'll be happy to hear. From a social media perspective, a psychology perspective, we're always telling our clients to make sure that we're repeating that key messaging. Marketers would call it content pillars, right? We're repeating things consistently over time. 7 touch points on average to make a purchasing decision is a classic that many people will know. So if we repeat that same messaging 7 times, it's more likely to happen. And so many people are saying that they do kind of everything, and it's so random, and it is muddled. So I really love where you've gone with that, James. One of the things that you mention is getting businesses to be the hero of their story. And I think when we talk about stories and storytelling, and even if I say hero of their story, I'm really conscious, maybe, James, if you don't mind me saying, some business owners might go, this is a load of fluffy marketing, wishy-washy nonsense. So tell me, first of all, why is it not? And also, what does good storytelling look like to make it not wishy-washy nonsense?
Yeah, I guess my view on it is, there's over 5 million SME businesses in the UK, right? So there's heaps and heaps of us trying to do really good things in our own lane or in our own sector or whatever you want to call it. And the reality is you're going to need to stand out. So like what's the difference between accountant one and the other 150 accountants? And because they're all offering roughly the same service, they're all offering roughly the same product. So the only difference between them is either you have a relationship with a person there, in which case you built that relationship probably on a level of storytelling, or one of those businesses is connected with you in a better way than the other one has. And that's probably because in some way you resonate or connect with what they've been saying, which is really they've been telling you why they exist as a business and who they exist to help. And you go, oh, that sounds a bit like me. So you instantly feel a level of connection towards them. So I think when people say, why is it fluffy? Yeah, storytelling kind of comes with that angle because people immediately think of like 450-page novels. And actually, you can tell a story in a sentence, hence my 16 words. Newspapers tell stories in headlines. People can tell stories in pictures if they want. There's a load of different mediums to do it. But the key thing with any story is every single story is designed for an audience. When an author sits down, they write it for a person. When a newspaper writes about the football, they know their audience they're talking to. And it's the same for a business. If you know exactly who your audience is, you tell the story for them. And when I say be the hero of your story, it's almost like a lot of the time, I think I'm just trying to give confidence to these businesses that actually it doesn't matter you're on a small industrial estate in Ratkeith because you're still a really good business. That doesn't mean that you can't be amazing at what you do. So you ultimately, as a business, are still the hero of the story you're presenting. And I think that's why I really encourage people to take ownership and believe in their story. Because I think that's ultimately a lot of the time what's going to make the difference when it's them versus a competitor in the kind of sales process or in the marketing function.
I'm having some similar conversations in my world with when we onboard our clients, whether it be someone that wants to become a key person of influence within their sector, whether it's a small business. They kind of almost say, oh, it's just little old me, and they're almost afraid of getting themselves out there. And it is a mindset thing, and that's the first interesting point. The second thing that I heard you say, James, correct me if I'm wrong, is you said that sounds like me, and it seems to be a recurring theme on this podcast now the last few weeks, where we're talking about relatability more than ever before. And perhaps it is with AI, perhaps we are so connected that we're disconnected, and there is this real hunger that the audiences want to be seen as someone that's like them. That needs to be something that's broadcast more. Would you agree that that's something that's missing in marketing these days? And is that done properly through proper storytelling on social?
Yeah, I think so. I think my overriding thought is that a lot of things are niching down. So, the days of the department store, if you like, are dead because the internet's killed that. And there's only really one department store in the world now, and that's Amazon. But if you look at every other business, it's if you get really good at a particular thing that you're doing, just have a confidence and a belief that that's the only thing you need to be good at. And don't try and be these 10 other things as well. And just by sometimes focusing on being good at one thing, it allows everything you do to then be more personal about that experience. So if you're only having to concentrate on being good at one particular thing or communicating one thing as a business, your ability to do that in a more personable, a more authentic, a more real way is much easier. And I think probably the biggest shift I'm sure you're seeing as well is that the mediums in which we consume our media as individuals, whether that be business or personal, is a much more informal style now. It's video based most of the time. It's sometimes voice based in terms of WhatsApp stuff. And I think that people really resonate when they come across a someone or an experience where it just feels like they're in the pub or they're having a coffee. And we've all been sold to by marketing for so long now we're all slightly blind to that sort of boring corporate stuff. That actually, when someone comes, like for me, for instance, I love putting in my LinkedIn posts. I often write like kinda rather than kind of, because that's just how I say it. So it's more evident that it's something that I've written and it's something that I believe, rather than something that somebody else wrote. Or, you know, and I think it's massive. And I think that most of the time, businesses, if you speak with any person who owns a business, they say people buy from people. And if it is people buying from people, then just put yourself out there as a person, make yourself sound like a person, act like a person, and bring that level of just real authenticity to the game. And in doing that, you almost accidentally at times tell your story anyway, especially for businesses at a sort of an SME level. Often the owner and the founder is the story of the business too. And it's them, you know, building their personal brand or key persons of influence, as you call it. And by building that up, you build your business up at the same time.
Oh, so with you, James. I still think it's such a crying shame that the many business owners are afraid to be themselves and be authentic on LinkedIn and use words like kinda. But actually, if that's what your customers would say on the phone to you, why not use that language to connect with them, right? I'm aware of the fact, James, we've kind of shared a lot of theory, a lot of wisdom, some tips and tricks already, which is fantastic. Thank you. Could you bring this to the real world in terms of your business, James? Could you maybe share a, pardon the pun, story of a business, not mine, please, although you can if you like. I'd love you to tell a story of how businesses engaged with you. They've gone from this kind of muddled messaging to something really slick, succinct, sexy that sells more customers. I'd really love to know more on that.
Yeah. Often all my work is often still in transition. It's sort of like it's a journey people go on. I think the example I'll probably give you is from the lovely swans, Indigo Swan. You know, James is someone who has quite a big key personal influence, personal brand anyway. But for them, they're a good example of a business, which is probably why I'd give it, that's in transition. So they've been very, very good at what they do for a long time, but they're now making the jump from being regional to UK. And all of a sudden, everything changes. So the audience that you could otherwise interact with within Norfolk or the region, for instance, James could go to a networking event, meet the person he needs to speak with and do the deal. Whereas now you're selling to a care home sector or a group of care homes in Birmingham. It's different. You're selling to a financial director. You're not selling to an MD anymore. So that's a good example of where lots of businesses reach this crossroads, really, where the owner and the founder gets them a long way down the track. They build relationships, they build personal brands. They can win most of their work from a combination of being nice and referrals. And then all of a sudden they step up to the Premier League, if you like. And all of a sudden they're now selling to somebody whose job in that business is to basically not make a mistake. So you're selling to like a financial director or a procurement director. And they can no longer make a gut feeling selection on, do you know what, I really like that person. I think that they have to be able to demonstrate and prove. So all of a sudden, the story you have to tell as a business to that audience has completely changed. It's now about, how do you show off the awards you've won? How do you show off the quality of your work? How do you prove that customers stay with you time after time? You have to have an ability to demonstrate that. How do you show you've got a big team capable of handling all of the inquiries and the challenges and the problems, etc.? And for a business, that's quite a big shift to make. And it's like, what does that look like? Because you've known one world for so long, and you're now stepping into slightly new territory. And in taking that step, you often need a bit of confidence and you often need a bit of belief. And with it, you kind of need a new identity to go with, but you're certainly not forgetting what got you there. So I've really enjoyed my bit of work with them, which if anyone's interested, they'll see in the coming weeks, as I think they're launching their brand tomorrow, and a new website that goes with that. And it's a bit of work that I'm really proud of, because I think you'll see a significant jump in where they were to where they are now, and the ability that gives themselves to present themselves at a much bigger table. And it's just come from just re-engineering the story. It's still the same great business, still doing the same great things. It's just the way in which you present yourself to a slightly different audience needs to change sometimes.
That might be our first kind of local exclusive there that you've shared, James. I love that. I think you've kind of almost half touched upon things there, matey, talking about the stuff that's worked, but you've kind of hinted at the stuff that doesn't. And I'd really want to send people away, having tuned into this day, this podcast today, with an idea of what not to do. So when you see a business online, specifically social media, how are they botching, failing, getting everything wrong with their business story? What are the things that you look at and you go, oh, that is absolutely awful?
I think the first one I often say is when you're not doing anything. You know, I'm sure we've both seen that a lot, you know, where it's really, really good businesses and they're just not telling anyone. So like they're not even giving themselves the opportunity. So that's certainly the biggest one I see. Where I go into a business is doing great things. Like, do you not bother to tell anyone? You know, so that's definitely one. But then of the businesses that are trying to and are making the effort, I think the biggest mistake that I see most of the time is the businesses that are trying to be all things to all people. You can just tell that they're really hedging their bets, and it's sort of the language they use is sort of like, well, we could help with any kind of needs you've got, that sort of turn of phrase. And I think for most business owners I talk with, the reason they do that, which I understand, is they feel by opening the net to everybody, they'll catch someone. But the reality is the someone who's looking for their business is looking for someone that can really help them, not someone that they think might be able to help them alongside all these other things they do. And I think that's the biggest one I see, and kind of it's the reverse of the best storytellers. The worst storytellers, if you like, it's just generic, and it's kind of trying to be helpful to every person. Whereas my version of what really good storytelling is, it's so direct that the person at the other end of that LinkedIn post, that LinkedIn message, that tube advert, whatever it is like they're talking directly to me. And that's when you're really onto it. A lot of the time I see businesses where they are talking and they are trying, but they're not really having any punch or any impact to what they're saying. It's just really, really generic. And I get it, because sometimes you're just trying your best. And I think it's not until you step back sometimes and go, okay, who is the key person I need to talk to? And what exactly do I need to tell them? And then you can start to hit upon what good storytelling is. But that's probably the biggest mistake I see is people being really, really generic, trying to cast that net as wide as possible. And I think in doing that, you actually probably cast no net at all.
Oh, so much wisdom in that, James. It's absolutely brilliant. I just want to throw something at you to kind of almost conclude this conversation. But before I do that, I want to kind of actually go back to the previous episode and share this bit of wisdom for the people that haven't tuned into it yet. I had the pleasure of interviewing 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀 on the last one, and her kind of gold quote was, "Stop being so humble. Closed mouths don't get fed." And so I'm so happy, James, that you mentioned that one of the biggest mistakes is just not doing anything, just not trying to tell your story. It's amazing that there are so many businesses out there, James, that do some incredible work, but don't tell anyone that their mouth is closed, and thus they don't get fed. I also just wanted to throw this at you, James, with AI, and I don't want to go too far down the road, but I wondered what you thought of, maybe it would be a good thing for business owners to do, to maybe have their meetings recorded, upload their transcripts into AI, tell AI to extract the personal stories that you tell, and start to kind of extrapolate from those and see whether they could be broadcastable. Is that a little quick fire tip, or do you disagree with that?
No, that's what I do. I record most of my meetings. I voice note myself an awful lot when my brain's most active, because for all of us who are running businesses, a lot of the time it's just something's going on in our head and we kind of need to get it out. And actually, you know, I know that you're a big Daniel Priestley fan as well, and he often talks about that idea of you're sat on a mountain of gold. And it's just for every time that, for instance, I speak with a client or a potential client or have a coffee with someone, it's the idea that I would like to think, or I'd hope, that I'm giving them expertise all of the time. And actually, just by having it recorded, it gives me an ability to now use my expertise and my thinking for my own marketing, because I've just simply logged it so I can use it another day. Whereas what happened before was you'd say something and then you'd go about a busy life and you'd forget about it. And I think that's what happens with lots of businesses too, is that for these businesses, what they're doing, they don't see as that special because it's just their day job. Oh, that's just what I do. And they don't necessarily see what they're doing as expert or very good. And it's not until someone else comes along and tells them that it is that they begin to realize, oh, actually, yeah, not everyone else can do that. So that is kind of cool. Yes. And it's, yeah, I would definitely say as a top tip, voice note yourself a lot, write ideas down a lot, record meetings, and just begin to, the biggest thing I'm looking to pull out when I do that is, what are the things that I'm saying all of the time that are getting really, really good responses? So one of my kind of messages I use a lot in my marketing now is, most businesses are good at what they do. They're just rubbish at telling anyone. And the reason I use that a lot now is I was using it in every meeting. And in every meeting, the response I would get to that was the answer that I would often want is, do you know what? That's so true. And it's almost my way of testing my own marketing messaging to some degree is you can begin to see the messages you use a lot and the responses you get. And if you're getting good responses by every person you're having a coffee with, there's a good chance then if you want to use that in a wider world from a marketing point of view, that will also land in the same way. So yeah, I would definitely advise people to record in any sense.
It's getting hot in here, James. I can already feel an episode 3 coming, my friend. There's so much more that you could share, but we don't have the time to do so. Where can people go, James, to do business with you, connect with you, learn from you? There's tons that you could impart upon people. How do they do business with you?
Probably the easiest way is to find my LinkedIn, which is James Hale, or head to my website, which is 𝗖𝗵𝗄𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗀. On both of those, primarily on my LinkedIn, I'm always looking to push out videos where I'm just kind of putting my thoughts into the world. And if that resonates with you as a business owner, then I think I can definitely help. And if it doesn't resonate with you, I'm sorry, like, move on. So I think that's really, really where the best place to connect with me is. I'm a big believer on, like, just go watch some of my videos, get a feel for whether that's something that resonates with your business. And if it feels like, do you know what, we're that business in that moment in time, I think you can really help. Then yeah, just drop me a DM and I'm sure I can help.
I've used James myself. It's not often that I would have worked with a guest, but I have, and I would fully commit to getting James on board within my business again. So connect with him and do business with him. Thank you for your time today, James. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Cheers, Chris.
And thank you to everyone that's watching live, watching back, listening back. If you've enjoyed this Coffee with Chris, then do give it a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe, a review on all the audio platforms, a comment. Why not ask James a question about storytelling for your business? I'm sure he'd be happy to get back to you with any help and support that he can give. Thank you once again for tuning into another episode of A Coffee with Chris, and I'll see you this time